Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show. I'm Niki Taylor, a fourth-generation homeopath with over 25 years of professional experience and practice in this field of healing. The Homeopathy Health Show is the online voice of homeopathy around the world, promoting and raising awareness of this truly unique system of healing, which is suitable for all ages, young and old. Every week I invite guests from the world of homeopathy to come and share their experiences, their work, offer insights, and essentially talk all things homeopathy. Why not visit www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast button to listen to the latest episodes. So let's begin today's show here on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio. Hi and welcome to the Homeopathy Health Show here on the UK Health Radio Network, and of course I'm your host Niki Taylor, and I do hope you're well, and I hope you've had a very joyous week. It's been very challenging actually over the last couple of weeks. There's so much to do. There's always so much to do, isn't there? And it's just not enough hours in the day. I was thinking that I could actually reduce my sleep time, but I don't think that would be very good for my health. But hey, it goes onwards and upwards. I would remind all the listeners to do follow my Instagram and see all the behind-the-scenes trailers and footage, and that's available at like_treatslike. So that's my Instagram handle. Now, to my guests for today, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome the Irish School of Homeopathy to the show. I'm joined by Sarah Barrington, who is the first and second year study group tutor at the school. Sarah graduated from the Irish School of Homeopathy and practices in Kilkenny in Ireland. And I welcome Niki Taylor, who is a graduate of the school and is the administrator of the Irish School itself, director of postgraduate studies, and also, lectures at the school. Now, Sarah is joining me from Ireland, and Niki actually is joining me from Malaga in Spain. So it has an international theme, and we're talking about the Irish School. So go and figure that one out. So Niki and Sarah, thank you so much for coming on today's Homeopathy Health Show. It's a real honor and pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having us.
There was some silence there. I hope that was okay.
Thank you, Atik, very much for having us on the show and for allowing us this space to talk about our passion, homeopathy, the Irish School of Homeopathy, and ourselves.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, and I know that we have been trying to sort of schedule something, but like I said at the beginning, life is just so busy, isn't it? And finally, hey, we're here, so that's the main thing. It's brilliant. Really looking forward to this. So we've covered on the Homeopathy Health Show a number of schools, and the reason for that is very much so that the listeners get a real-time experience of what it's like to study homeopathy. And I would actually ask you the same, but before we go into that and what the Irish School is about and the ethos and the courses that you offer, do tell me, let's start with Niki, do tell me about your background and why homeopathy.
Gosh, that's a long, convoluted story, but I was raised in Dublin, in Dunleary, and I was one of those very allergic kids. I was allergic to everything: dust, dogs, cats, water. I was pretty miserable, to be honest with you. And the doctors were saying, "Oh gosh, she's going to grow out of it. She's going to grow out of it," and I never grew out of it. So it got steadily worse. But the main thing that bothered me was the damp and the rain. And I just found it, and the asthma. So I decided, when I finished college, I studied languages and business. And I decided, look, if Ireland was the problem, I was going to move from Ireland and I'd move over to Spain. The sun shone, everything was going to be great. And I got over here, I sold my house in Ireland and I bought a little finca, which is a farm.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's my dream. That's my absolute dream. Honestly, I want a donkey and I want a couple of chickens.
I'm happy. Donkey,
Right?
I didn't get the donkey, but I did get a lovely little farm and 2 dogs. And there was olive trees and there was orange trees and lemon trees. It was just beautiful. And I thought, yes, this is it. So I was about 3 months in my finca when the allergies came back so badly. So badly that I actually couldn't breathe for about 6 months properly at all. And I went to down mainstream. I knew nothing about homeopathy, absolutely nothing about alternative medicine. I'd been brought up on, your Panadols and Ventolin, steroid inhalers, etc. To the doctor to see what I could do. And he said that he did testing on me, that I was one of the most allergic people he'd ever met. And there was very little I could do except for up my medication. So he upped my medication to an emphysema drug, which was like a powder that I had to inhale every day. And
that was a medical powder for the listeners, just in case.
Yes, a medical powder for sure.
Just clarify that one. Got to get the jokes in. Got to get the jokes in.
Okay. And that got me to, all the side effects of taking very hard drugs, if we're going down that route. And so I was rushed into hospital with a suspected heart attack. And I suppose that was the moment for me where I thought, gosh, if I'm so ill at this age, what am I going to be like when I'm 60? It's just going to be a miserable old life. And I was walking down Fuengirola Main Street and I looked up and I saw a sign saying homeopatha, which means homeopath in English. And I made an appointment with a lovely man called Juan Jose Hernandez, who was my first homeopath. And I went along to this session and I thought, oh gosh, the usual 10 minutes and I'll be out. And an hour and 40 minutes later, I went out with a couple of little homeopathic pilules and a new kind of appreciation for what a consultation actually meant. He went through absolutely everything with me. And off I went and took my 3 little balls and cried for a whole week, but felt for the first time, I think, in my life that I could breathe, that I could actually catch a breath. So I think from that very first weekend, I was hooked. I thought, gosh, I want to know more. So he treated me for 18 months. He got me 80% of the way there. I didn't need to use Ventolin very much. And from there, he went up to Barcelona and I found another homeopath called Klaus Mikosch, who worked on clearing my miasmatic background, clearing, where it came from, that susceptibility. But within 3 years, I was allergy-free, completely allergy-free. I could have dogs in the house, could be around cats. And I was just amazed. I was, oh my God, this is magic. This is amazing. How am I going to ever be able to explain this to people? So that's what inspired me to go study homeopathy. And the best school I could find was the Irish School of Homeopathy, which concentrated on pure classical homeopathy rather than naturopathy. And that's the beginning of the story.
That's such a inspiring story. And, it's as you were talking, I was just thinking how interesting it is, right, Sarah and Niki, that we can spend years on general prescription medicine to sort of maintain our health. So let's say anti-allergy medications, whatever they are, right? And then there are the other class of people, or the other side of the coin, which is, let me start homeopathy, and let's say it may take 3 years. But 3 years at that time seems such a long way away, right? We're all into this. I've got a headache, just take a paracetamol. I need to get to work, right? I just want it to go. But patience leads to a cure, right? Or should I say, for want of a better word, amelioration of symptoms, or basically the symptoms go away, right?
It's interesting. Process.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because if you're patient, you can actually get rid of the disease altogether. Or you could spend 3 years, which rushes by, just trying one drug after another with no luck.
Absolutely, Atik. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, because people expect to go in, see a homeopath, take one little pilule, and they're going to be right as rain. In actual fact, it takes a long time to build up to be chronically unwell, especially with asthma, allergies, and all sorts of chronic disease. There's a build up to that starts early on. And I think by explaining to our patients that it's a process of cure, it's not an immediate, magic tablet, that it's a process and we need to go through that process. But at the end of that process, you will be a lot healthier than you were at the beginning.
Yeah, I love your story, and I'm sure the listeners have been just as inspired, which takes me on to Sarah Barrington. Sarah, tell us, do share your sort of path or journey towards homeopathy and what that involved.
Okay, I'm going to give it to you in a nutshell because it's a little bit longer. I grew up in Ireland till I was 7, and then I moved to Germany for 5 years in a German school. Then I moved to London in a German school because that was what I was used to. Then to Italy in a European school, and then I went to university in London and studied law and became a lawyer.
So,
So
does that mean you didn't really like living in Ireland?
no, that was just with my parents. So, like I didn't really have a choice. It was more
I
like
know.
you're going here,
I'm,
but they did
I'm
have to
joking.
bribe me each time. So when I moved to Italy, it was only on the condition that they would buy me a moped. But
Oh,
yeah, but then that came with the condition of my dad that I had to drive 100 kilometers behind him in the car.
oh, wow.
Yeah, because I was
Wow.
16 at the time, but you can get them there when you're 16. Um, so, and then I was in London practicing as a lawyer, and I decided to take a sabbatical. I moved to Honduras and became a scuba diving instructor, where I met my now husband, and we went off and ran a dive center in Zanzibar in Tanzania.
Wow.
Yeah, which was amazing. Then we continued with diving and moved to the Caribbean, but we both then wanted to go back. So I actually was working as a lawyer in the Caribbean, and then a large hurricane hit, and we were like, okay, we had 2 small kids. We're like, this might not be the best. So we moved to Ireland, and I was working remotely still because when I left, they asked me to work remotely. Um, and it was then that my daughter at the time, she was 4, Lila, she's 12 now. She started getting ear infections, and it was like I had never heard the word homeopathy in my life. It was like conventional, nothing else existed really for me at that time. And I kept bringing her to the doctor, is antibiotic. And then the same antibiotic a couple of months later, and then the same antibiotic. And I would say to the doctor, like, is there anything else? Like, this is not working. And they would say, no, there's nothing else. So at that point, there's a homeopath here in Kilkenny, Abbas, and I went into him and I said, like, look, is there anything else? And he said, oh yeah, there's like homeopathy. You can buy this first aid kit. So I bought the Helios first aid kit, and I was like, this is going to cure her earache. Brilliant. I'm so excited. I got the kit. I opened it up. I thought it'd be like, conventional first aid kit. I saw all these balls. I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, what am I supposed to do? So I immediately randomly found the Irish School of Homeopathy. I called, like, Jerry, who's one of our directors. He always arranges a call with people. So he called me. I said, I'm starting on the 4-year course. It was November. He said, well, it started in September, so you can't. You have to wait a year. I said, I'm not waiting a year. I'm starting on the course. And he said, well, come and do the day 1. And if you like it, we can talk about it. So I did day 1 with Niki, actually. It was amazing. And we do that on Zoom. So I did it in person, but we also do it on Zoom. And I said, spoke to Jerry. I said, can I start tomorrow? And he said, yes. And that was how I started.
Wow. I have to say your experience of traveling is really, I'm envious. That's a lot of traveling and it's so nice. And I know that recently you shared some photos because you do love the odd hike. Maybe even climbing up a mountain for no reason whatsoever. But hey, there is a reason, which is it's very calming and it's endurance, isn't it? It pushes yourself and it also helps to ground yourself. It also helps with so many other things, doesn't it? It's wonderful to be at one with nature. It really is, especially in
Definitely.
today's society, in today's connected world, and trying to get away. Before we pressed record, we were talking offline, weren't we? And I was talking about um, trying to get some sleep in, with the schedule, and it's so important to take time out for yourself, right?
Definitely. That was the picture I sent you. I was climbing. a mountain here in Ireland, but I did attempt to climb Mont Blanc when I was in my 20s. Didn't go very well because I actually got really bad altitude sickness. And thinking back now, I could have used homeopathy at that point, but I knew nothing about it. But altitude sickness was really horrendous. But I got like halfway. So there we go.
Good. Well, congrats on that,
Yeah.
And so that takes me on to the Irish School of Homeopathy. So do tell about the Irish School, and obviously you're both involved firsthand, and I know that Niki, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the administrator of the school itself and lectures, as do you, Sarah. So Niki, do tell us about the school and how it came about.
Well, it was actually my Spanish homeopath, Juan Jose, who recommended the school. Now, obviously, I was living in Spain, so I didn't really know how I was going to manage this. And like with Sarah, I arranged a call with Jerry and met him in Dublin, came over, and he said to come and join us for the introductory day, which I did. I think it was Grania Adams taught me that. She's still a teacher and lecturer at the school. Excellent. And from there, I started the 4-year course. Passionate about it. I absolutely loved every moment of those 4 years of the learning, and continued on. So when I graduated, Jerry invited me to come and help with the school, maybe do a little bit of Facebook here and there. Eventually, I started teaching the one-day workshop. Because I always felt, and I still feel very passionate about that, because that was my first, I suppose, formal understanding of homeopathy. The day I spent when I started to put all of those pieces together, now I understand why he gave me that remedy. Now I understand, so that was just brilliant for me. And it just progressed from there. I really enjoy working with Angie and Jerry, who are the directors of the school. And I've been working with them now for, how many years? Over a decade, anyway.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I was speaking to somebody who's just joined year 1 for a 4-year homeopathy course, and she was we were having this discussion, and she said, "Oh, I'm always thinking that how am I going to understand what the seniors are talking about? And there's a WhatsApp group, and they're discussing all these things, and how am I going to get there? And they're talking about that, and I have no clue what I'm doing." I said, it all comes to you eventually, especially when you actually graduate and you leave and go into practice. That's when it hits you. It's just like saying, I gave her the analogy that when you sit in a car, first it's the theory, right? And then after that, you need to know where the oil goes in the car and the washer top-up fluid goes, and which part is the engine, what the steering is, where the indicators are, and the gas pedal and whatnot. And then you actually start to drive the car, and then you pass, and then after you've passed, you are unique as a driver. Yeah, you follow all the rules, but you have your uniqueness, and that's homeopathy. But it happens after you go into practice, isn't it? It's interesting because of what you said, and you only realize afterwards, don't you? Oh, that's why he gave me that, and and that's why this, because and you get it, don't you? You get it.
For sure. And I think with homeopathy, the learning never ends. I still today, over a decade on, think, gosh, I have so much still to learn. But the process of learning is so enjoyable. So I know that in the school, we start with the clinics in 3rd and 4th year. And they're a brilliant way for our students to be able to practice under supervision, so that when they do graduate, they end up with, they've some practice under their belt, so they don't feel completely on their own.
It's wonderful. And Sarah, so how is it for you as far as the school is concerned? And how do you find it? How do you find sort of lecturing as well, and looking after the study group in particular?
Yeah, it's really nice. I think what you just mentioned about the first years, I was up recently in September, we had 13 new first years starting this year. Yeah, and so I have 7 of them in my group, and I am on their WhatsApp group with them. So that's actually really nice because they're kind of just finding their feet and some of them are overwhelmed. And yesterday I just had a little call with one of them because she was like, I just don't get the repertory sheets and the ticking. And I was like, let's just jump on a call, 5 minutes. We'll sort it out. I'll show you how to do it. And afterwards she's like, okay, I got it. I could do it. I could do my case because they're doing paper cases in first year. And then second year, they're doing live cases. So I take the case as a homeopath and they watch and they can ask questions. And we had and you just don't know what kind of case you're going to get. They have to bring the case. So we just got the most interesting case yesterday of this man who like got run over by a train and he's still here. And yeah, and then numerous other accidents that he's had. And they were just like, wow, like how is he still on the planet? Like this case is unreal and really nice for them to see like firsthand. And now they have to, I didn't tell them what I'm prescribing, but they have to work it out for themselves. And then we discuss it. And then I will tell them eventually once I let them, figure it out for a bit first.
It's an interesting process. I mean, I've had so many guests. I've had the honor to have so many guests on the Homeopathy Health Show, and from all the names and who's been on and everything.
Yeah.
And it's so fascinating, isn't it? Because every single homeopath is unique, just like every remedy is unique, just like every patient is unique. And I think that's actually a really, really good thing because it's not just textbook, A plus B equals C. It's not that, or 1 + 1 = 2. It's not. It could be anything, right? And depending on what fascinates you within the under the umbrella of homeopathy with the different styles and the modalities, you can really shine, and everybody has that potential. It's so important, isn't it? As long as the basics and the foundation is there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So first year, they're just really learning the foundations. And they, I tell them about the computer program, but I also tell them you're not allowed to use it in first year because they really just have to get the basics. They're like, this takes so long. I'm like, yes, but you still need to mark down the ones. You can't leave them out. And they're like, oh no, it's going to take so long. I'm like, no, it'll be worth it, And then second year, they're into ISHom. So it's a whole new, like, they haven't even heard the word before. So it's kind of like nice to be able to be I think the study group teachers are more like to hold their hands a bit more because, they go into lectures once a month, but then they have somebody else there in first and second year who they can kind of ask anything that they may not want to ask in front of the whole class, or, they can message me, or it's just, like I remember my tutors in first and second year. So it's nice to be in that position to give it back to them. So I really enjoy it.
I remember, when I was sort of getting into repertorization, I was so bad. I mean, really couldn't put anything together at all. It took me ages, and you really have to do some grafting, right, to get there. But now, obviously, with computers and the software that's available, it does make life very, very easy. But it doesn't solve that. You still have to know. And I think what you said is so important. You need to do it by hand many, many times because that's where the skill comes from, right? That's where ailments from and delusions and aggravations and modalities and everything else that goes into it. That's where it comes from. That you'll always remember. And then when you do, let's say, upgrade to technology and you start using software to make life easier, you still need to know that. It doesn't mean it just makes the only difference I see with the digital repertory and the physical effort is it just makes it easier. It's more efficient because you're saving a lot of time rather than looking through multiple books, right? Otherwise, the work is still there. But as you progress, it does become easier. For those listening who are interested in homeopathy, you may find that oh my God, this sounds really complicated. It's not, trust me. It's really, really not. It's not mathematical like that. It's just a certain process that you have to follow. And once you've done it a few times, you'll find it very, very easy to follow. It's not complicated, but it's still a fascinating subject in itself. So, hey, Niki, let's talk about the school and what it has to offer. Tell me about some of the courses that the Irish School of Homeopathy offers.
Okay, well, I mean, the school has been around since 1988. So it's one of the longest standing schools, I think, in Europe or the world even. So we like to think of it as a progression through the school, a process through the school. And the first course we offer is the introductory day, which is a one day introductory online course where they just learn the foundations of homeopathy. They learn about acute prescription. They do a little bit on potency and dosage, and so that they can go off then and practice and use it, understanding that it's for acute cases and it's within their capabilities. From there, we move on to a 5-day online course, which we call the Home Prescriber Certificate. And those days are themed. So there's a day on women's health and a day on men's health and a day on nutrition. And so each of those, that's progressed over about 3 months. So there's 5 online days. And then we move into the foundation year in homeopathy, which is the beginning of the 4-year course. But for a lot of people, it's too big a leap to go from the Home Prescriber Certificate straight into, oh gosh, I'm going to do 4 years of this. So we offer the first year as a kind of a separate year in itself. They're in with the 4-year course, but there's 11 weekends. And that's the beginning of the journey through into the 4-year course. So that's the kind of progress through. Then after they graduate, there'll always be 1 or 2 or 3 courses, postgraduate courses, to keep them, engaged and dynamic and learning, because that's so important to stay dynamic.
No, it is. It is very, very, and like you very aptly said earlier, you continue to learn. Every day is learning possibility. There's so much. It's so vast, isn't it? In fact, dare I say it, Sarah, but I was having another conversation. Boy, I have so many conversations in one day. I'm actually surprised I can remember even this one. But I was having this conversation again yesterday about homeopathy and the different variations and the styles and there's so much to learn, isn't it? And I was comparing it to conventional medicine. When you do medicine generally, it's generally 7, I think it's about 7 years, right? Depending on whether you want to go further with specialities and whatnot. But if we're just looking at a standard GP, and then I was comparing homeopathic doctors, for example, against the GPs, and homeopathy requires so much more, does it not? Because you're talking about personalized, tailored, individual medicine for an individual suffering from, even if they're identical complaints, they're unique to that individual, right? And what I mean by that is the temperaments and the modalities and the psyche element of it and the constitution and the personality, and might be layers of personalities, upon that patient. To get to a place where I have to be careful with my word, but to get to a place where they're not suffering anymore. I think everybody gets the word that I'm probably trying to say. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? When you compare and you look at homeopathy, that's why, Niki, after 3 years, you were allergy free because of that unique approach to you. And ladies and gentlemen, listening to the show, that's why we need more homeopaths. We need so many more. We need millions more homeopaths to be able to serve humanity through homeopathy, because people need to know that there is treatment out there which does treat you as an individual. It treats you as far as you are concerned, who you are, your mind, your psyche, and it then treats your symptoms. And, that's just an absolute match made in heaven. But hey, I digress. Yes, Niki.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's what's really important to get across is the individuality of it. That's the beauty in it, that each person comes along with their own symptoms, and that we don't treat the diagnosis, we don't treat the cold, we don't treat the cough, we don't treat the flu. We treat how that person is feeling in that moment. How is their head? Where is the pain? What's going on with their throat? Where is the cough coming from? How they're feeling in there? Are there any changes to their desires, their thirst? All of that. So it's beautifully individualized, allowing that simillimum to become obvious. And so allowing us to find a remedy that will alleviate those symptoms in that moment.
I think I also, sorry.
Of course, please.
I think I also see it like a lot firsthand here because like having 3 kids and they're small, so 4, 9, and almost 12. Like one of my children, so he's 6 and he had croup. And as you guys know, homeopathy is amazing with croup, like spongia, aconite, heparin. And within like he had one day the barking cough, the fever overnight. The next day he was on to like more a phlegmy cough. And then I see people in his class, because obviously it's such a contagious virus, and they're off for like 2 weeks and they're going to doctors, and it's just the only thing they can give is a steroid, which does help it in the end too. It's just a different approach. But this actually triggers the body to help itself. And he's like fighting fit now back in school. He only needed a few days off. And it's just amazing. You can see the difference because my kids, they'll have like maybe 2 days off sick in the year, whereas other kids, weeks and weeks for exactly the same virus because they're in the same class. So like having it as a tool is just incredible. Like I can't believe I didn't have it for so many years,
Yeah, absolutely. It's thrilling, isn't it? And now I personally, for example, find myself very much talking to the patient about, the cause and effect. And it's like look, this is the I don't know, the embryonic layer that is associated with this cough, for example. This is the biological processes that your body is going through. Because when they actually understand that, then they understand, oh, this is why it happened. And then you link back to the mind, and you link to the psyche, and you link to the symptoms themselves. It helps them because next time something happens, they're not panicking. Oh my God, it's a cold. It's a cold. What's going to happen? It's a cold, yes, and this is how it's going to be treated. Or it's a fever. What's the purpose of a fever? Yeah, why does it happen? Why does the body have this response? Why are there physiological changes as a result? It's so important, isn't it, to educate as well.
Exactly.
Empowering the patient.
Yeah,
ultimately,
and
right?
like that,
The motto of the logo of the school is inspiring, nurturing, and empowering. And it's embracing that empowerment that you're giving people to be able to deal with, green snot on a Friday evening or a high fever on a Sunday when there's no doctors around.
Charming.
So I feel that, for people who are, on the fence about homeopathy, try it. Suck it and see, because it's not a belief. It's not, oh my gosh, I need to believe in homeopathy for it to work. No, it works for those really nasty bugs, as I said, the coughs, the colds, the snot. And sometimes it's a process for people to become confident in that by using it on the more minor ailments before they can actually kind of trust it enough to think about going through any kind of a chronic treatment or process.
And on that point, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's so important as well, isn't it? Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, and on that point, I think there's homeopathic vets and they treat, mastitis in cows. The cow doesn't know that he's not getting, a pharmaceutical drug, but it's still working. So it's never about believing that it will work. You can use it and see that it works. Like you see the evidence yourself. It's not, you don't have to be like believing in, oh, absolutely, this is gonna, do wonders. You actually see the result. And that's it.
Though you're both of you absolutely spot on. And the most important part, it's not believing whether homeopathy works. It's actually believing that there is something alternative or complementary or whatever you want to call it. There is another system out there that can help you. It's not just conventional medicine. Homeopathy is now, as a fact, the second largest system of medicine on Earth. I don't know about the moon. I don't know about Mars either. But,
My parents live in Switzerland part of the year, and in Switzerland, homeopathy is actually part of the constitution. Like everyone has a right to it. And when you go to the doctor there, it's like one door's doctor, one door's acupuncturist, you have homeopath, and they just show you or let you choose or advise you on which one is going to give you the best treatment for whatever is, you need treatment for. And that's like, for me, like, I wish that's how the world was, because that would be amazing.
What's really beautiful about that? You mentioned Switzerland, which itself is absolutely stunning. I mean, wow, that is like heaven on earth. But even places like India, where it's part of the constitution, or it is, um, everyone is empowered to seek medical health care from whichever method they want to, right? It's their choice. But it makes it so much easier, doesn't it? It makes life so much easier. Yeah. And I wish as well that it was like that in the West, certainly. Um, because it's actually true healthcare, right? If you are given the option that, look, it's not just this, we can help you with we can help you sort this out, but remember this is only temporary. So why don't you try something else? And someone will say, what else is there? Well, the next system, which is the second largest system outside of ours, is homeopathy. Why don't you look at that? And it gives that option, and it actually helps alleviate sometimes the tragedy of being unwell if you look at chronic diseases, because all of a sudden you've got options, and options do give you hope, okay?
For sure, Atik. And I remember in 2016, we brought a group of 22 homeopaths over to study with under Dr. Sankaran and Dr. Shekhar in the other song. And it was a fantastic experience to see how integrated homeopathy is in general healthcare. The fact that on every street corner, every pharmacy had homeopathy. The fact that within the surgeries and the clinics where we were going to watch and observe the practice, there were cardiologists alongside doctors of homeopathy. And for me, ISHom and the Ministry of Homeopathy, I just think it was absolutely an amazing experience.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, both Dr. Sankaran and Dr. Shekhar Al-Gundgi have been on the Homeopathy Health Show. So do check out those episodes. Just go to any podcast app and search Homeopathy Health Show, or just Google it. Google my name if you want, and you'll be very pleasantly surprised, I hope. But hey, I digress again. But tell me more about the school. So as far as the intake, it's the standard year, isn't it? Does it start from September and go into June or July?
Yeah, it's run from September to June, 11 weekends per year on the practitioner's course. And obviously there's meetups per week during that time as well.
I think it's important to note also it can be done on Zoom. Like we had student in America, we have some in Russia at the moment, and other countries as well. I can't remember all of them, but it can all be done on Zoom. And sometimes they fly in for the residential weekends, which are like a bit of an anomaly in the school, because we do these residential weekends, but nobody tells you what's going to happen at the residential weekend. So everyone in first year is like talking about them, and nobody will really tell them what happens, but they come out like new people out of them. So it's a little secret that we keep, and they'll find out when they get there.
It's not just about studying homeopathy. It's your own process. You're learning about yourself all the way through those 4 years. And that's the incredible part of it. You're not the same at the end of those 4 years.
And as far as the sort of, as an example, the age groups, is that just across the board? Yes, you've got young ones and more mature ones.
They don't tend to be too young. So, anything from 25 onwards, really. Mainly, a lot of people come to homeopathy when they have kids and they don't want to put those drugs into their children. So they want to find a gentler, more effective approach to healthcare. So we have a lot of mums. We've had, some farmers. We've had some vets. So we've had a lot of people from all walks of life actually take part in the course.
I think we also have granny and granddads as well. So it's brilliant because they want to help their grandchildren, or they've already had their career but they want something else, because as we know, like a homeopath, you can practice at a later age as well. It doesn't really matter, and you might have actually more wisdom because you've done so much of life. So that's exciting too for them.
Hey, I remember another conversation I had with somebody, and this was to do with they were a bit more senior, so elderly, and I don't know, elderly, just more senior, more mature,
wiser.
Yeah, and they said, "Oh, it's too late for me." And I said, "Well, why do you say that?" "Oh, because of my age." I said, "Listen, who knows? Because this is your time now. It's your destiny. That when you graduate, you may see more people or be able to help more people than someone else who's been practicing for 30, 40 years even. Who knows, right? There's never a time. This is not A levels and having a degree at university. Homeopathy is for it chooses you, right? There's a moment and a time and a place for these things. And I've spoken to enough homeopaths, including yourselves, where it just happens. There's a time. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Age is not the factor here, you know? When it's your time, if you're attracted to it, there's some divine wisdom there, that's guiding people towards this. And it's the people that will be successful as a result. It's the ones that have it in them. That doesn't mean it's not for everybody, but I mean, as far as those stories I've heard about homeopathy and why people are attracted to it. Yeah.
And I think in today's society, people are becoming a little bit more wary of the amount of, antibiotics, the amount of steroids that are prescribed, and they're looking for solutions. And one thing I love, when I'm talking about it on the one-day workshop, is what Hahnemann said about, his highest ideal of cure was the rapid, gentle, and permanent restoration of health. So it's not about just getting rid of the symptoms and hoping that it's all going to go away. It's actually working through that to bring you to a better state of health, and so that those symptoms don't keep recurring.
And that's all it is. It's, that's another beauty, isn't it, of homeopathy, Sarah, which is very much to do with if you are a mother or a father, if you are a parent and your child gets a fever, generally the first thing to do is panic. And then what happens after that is you call sometimes even emergency services because you don't know what's going on, or you run to the pharmacy and you get an emergency point from the GP and so many other things. And then let's say, I don't know, just for purposes of this conversation, a homeopath does get involved and they say it's Farinfos 6x 3 times a day and belladonna. There's not a prescription. I'm just giving an example, yeah? And belladonna, etc., depending on the symptoms or whatever. We're talking just acutes. And it's gone. And then next time the fever happens, the confidence in the parent is very, very different, because it's like, oh, well, I don't have to panic. I don't have to run. I don't have to call this. I know what's going on and I know why it's happening. And that gives so much peace in a home, does it not? Knowing that you can help yourself. And we've learned that. We've learned a great lesson post-pandemic, because there was nothing that anybody could do, right? Supposedly, but now things have changed. So it's a good time for homeopathy.
Yeah, I think coming back to where I started with Lila's earaches, I used to, after I started the course and I had my kits and all my remedies, I used to call the doctor, get the antibiotic, put it in the fridge, start giving her remedies. And then she'd be like, pain's gone. And I'd be like, it's gone? Like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, it's gone. And I'm like, oh my God. And I never needed that antibiotic. But I say that to my clients too. I'll say, go get the antibiotic, see the doctor, make sure there's nothing in the ear, and then we can use the remedies. And if they work, which I silently know they will, then great. And otherwise you have that there for your peace of mind. But slowly, I didn't need that there in the fridge anymore. And yeah, it's been like life-changing. And it's really nice to educate people, just that once they get that kit, they have the knowledge of how to do it, like coughs, colds, sore throats, earaches, all the usual stuff. They know how to do it. It's amazing.
It's Niki, Sarah said something very, very interesting there, which is very much to do with, go have the diagnostic tests done, well, a blood test, for example, but, have the tests done and carry on conventional. And then, once we can try the homeopathy, because it might happen once or twice, but then there's a shift and then there is no need for, tests or diagnosis, because if the symptoms are reoccurring, well, hang on. Example for this conversation again. I know belladonna worked because this is what my homeopath gave. Let me talk to her again, or let me talk to him again. Again, it's empowerment and it's knowing. And after a period of 6 months, that they're going to be like lovers of homeopathy, right?
For sure. I mean, this week was a brilliant example for me again, and I'm always reminded of, you know, the beauty of homeopathy. I had a lovely little 6-year-old who developed a huge abscess on her tooth, and so first point of call is always text Niki, see what to do. So I started her on Hepar sulf, but I did say go bring her to the dentist just to check out. Now the pain immediately went away, so all of the pain and suffering that she was feeling went with Hepar sulf, but it was still there. So she went to the dentist, and the dentist said, well, if there's no pain, I'll give you some antibiotics, but if there's no pain, let's see what happens. Continue with the homeopathy. I was amazed by that. And we for one more day, and then it a bit gross, but it burst and it's gone and she's fine. So I just love this. This is just, it's so empowering.
It is, absolutely.
For the parents and for the homeopath as well, to know that they're able to help people.
Yeah, it's so important. And, you know, sometimes we can talk to patients, can't we, about why an abscess has happened. So, you know, you've got necrosis or cell loss there and what the reason for that is. And you can link it back to the emotions. And you're teaching home prescribers, for example, so much, because that's the knowledge that is actually really it's tangible knowledge, right? Because they can see it and they can feel it, and then they understand why. And if you understand the biological processes and then you link it with homeopathy, I mean, wow, you know, it's like, this is great. You could climb Mount Everest. We can't, but, you know, well, maybe you can. I don't know. I can't. I can just about walk to the other room. But hey, let's not talk about me.
Have you tried to climb it, though? Maybe you got to 10.
I need to try and get out of the clinic first before I need to get down to Sainsbury's once a year, you know. It does bring us to the end of today's episode. It's been a fascinating and very inspiring conversation with you both about the Irish School of Homeopathy, but more also about yourselves and your passion and love for homeopathy, which comes across in a really beautiful and, again, I'll use that word, inspiring way. So thank you so very much. And I think we should try and perhaps do an Irish School of Homeopathy special where we can stream it live and get the students from the school to come on and we can just have a nice conversation.
That sounds like a wonderful idea, Atik. And just to say thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to chat to you, to meet you in person, and to be on your podcast.
Oh, it's an absolute honor to have you on. Honestly, it's thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Atik. It's been really fun, and that sounds great, getting students on. We just have to find ones who want to do it and are brave enough.
Well, we'll talk offline, and you know, definitely we'll talk after this, and let's get that going, you know. But yeah, I will talk to you very, very soon.
Thanks, Atik.
Thank you.
I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Homeopathy Health Show. Please do support the show by clicking follow on my socials. Remember, the more exposure the podcast receives, the better for homeopathy around the world. You can find me on Instagram by searching for @like_treatslike, and on both Facebook and TikTok by searching for @like_treatslike. So let's promote the voice of homeopathy on radio and podcast around the world together. Don't forget to visit me online at www.liketreatslike.co.uk and click on the radio and podcast tab. Here you'll be able to see all the guests that have joined me on the show so far, and of course you can stream on demand the latest episode to your mobile, tablet or PC. Until next time, stay safe and take care.